I'm Felix Levine, and welcome to Unlike Me, where I sit down with fascinating people I have nothing in common with.
And we're live. Serena fucking Kerrigan.
I've only heard you say that once before.
When was that?
When we met.
So a year ago. Actually, a little bit more than a year ago.
A year and a month. That's 2 months? A year ago.
You walked in here thinking, what?
That I was going to a podcast in Brooklyn.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Correct.
And then when you walked in here, what did you think?
That I want to fuck the shit out of you.
All right, Serena. I've never sat down and interviewed my girlfriend. Why are you smiling?
I don't know. I'm nervous.
Yeah, me too. This is actually so strange. You know what's funny is, for people listening, Serena's mom, who's a fantastic creative mind, producer, helps me with my pre-production of my episodes. And do you want to know what your mom this time? I said, hey, like, any ideas on my episode with Serena? She goes, communication. Lily, you literally gave me one word for my pre-production on this episode. So I love you. But no, I'm really excited because I think this is definitely an unusual episode for me. I've done over 140 episodes of my show. I've co-hosted another podcast as well. And this is the first time that I get to, I think, be a little bit more comfortable with my guests in a different way. Or also nervous too, because like there's the ways that I talk to you when we're off air, which is 98% of the time in a baby voice.
Which we should talk about.
Yeah, we should talk about, and we'll get into that in a second. But I'm excited because I think, and I'm happy we didn't do an episode earlier than our first one. And I think where we're at today is an interesting point for a lot of people because, you know, we do our What Would SFK Do Wednesdays sometimes together. And I think people have a level of interest in us. Good or bad.
As they should.
For sure, as they should. But first, I want to take you back to the beginning. How has your life changed since the last time you walked into that seat?
I think that when I first walked into the studio, I had no idea that we were going to have a connection. And it's funny because I remember growing up and I would see the phrase love at first sight. And I remember saying to my mom, like, how can you fall in love at first sight? Like, what does that even mean? Like, that's crazy. And if you really look back to our episode, I really feel like that's what that is. It's like we were just so instantly connected, so smitten with one another. But it's not like I left being like, oh my God, he's going to be my boyfriend. I didn't even think that. I felt different and it was exciting. But I think that that's how it's different from the other guys I previously dated. Like I wasn't overthinking anything when I left the room. How has my life changed? I mean, I feel like I've grown so much. You've taught me so much. Taught me how to make my bed.
I still make the bed.
Right. Well, I like to watch you do it. I'm just happy. And I feel like I was single for 5 years and I made my whole brand about dating and I felt really frustrated. When I came into your studio, I was really frustrated. I was actually dating someone else at the time, like very casually. It was like a month in. He was a total psycho narcissist and a soul cycle instructor. And I remember leaving the room and I broke up with him that night after I met you because I was like, Felix asked me more questions and got to know me so much more in the span of an hour than this guy had for like a month and a half of dating, which is crazy. So I remember ending it with him. And I think that, you know, the way that we started talking or started flirting with one another was when I said to you, like, I feel like I'm too much. And you said, but for someone that's for you, like you'll be the perfect amount.
Is that the first moment you feel like we were flirting on the podcast?
Yeah. Like really I felt like you weren't just saying, well, for the right person, you'll be the perfect amount. I felt like you were telling me, like, you'll never be, what was the line?
I think I said something like, for the right person, you're the perfect amount.
Right. So and I think that, I felt like you were, looking back, it felt like you were saying that to me, like you were the right person and I was the perfect amount. Do you still think I'm the perfect amount?
100%. But you know what's funny, and a lot of people have questions, and I get this question all the time, is did you go into that podcast with intentions of this with Serena?
No.
Correct. No. Like, first and foremost, I always pride myself on being a professional. And then it was this weird moment, and I think it was, I guess the first moment was the one that went viral where it was like 6 minutes in.
That didn't go viral. That wasn't the one that went viral.
What was the one that went viral? Oh, I feel like there were a couple.
Okay.
But the first moment that I felt like we had maybe crossed potentially into a boundary of going from professional to non-professional is when I said something complimentary, and then you said, "Are you hitting on me? I'm down." And that was, I think, the moment that turned for me where I was like, okay, maybe, but let's wait for the end of this podcast episode to be over, especially because cameras are on, mics are on, lights are on. Your publicist at the time was in the room. My producer was in the room. And then I think, you know, what's funny about the love at first sight is you don't realize maybe that it's love at first. Like, you think it's like what you said. It's like the movies in that way, but this was.
Yeah.
In its own way, in our way. What has our relationship taught you? And then I want to answer that question too, if that's okay with you.
I feel like when you are dating and dating potentially like toxic people or people that aren't meant for you, you're so focused on them. Like, are they texting me back? Like, do they like me? You know, is this going somewhere? You're so fixated on them and their feelings towards you that you don't really hold up a mirror to yourself. And I feel like when you're in a healthy relationship, that's what happens, because you're so secure in, you know, your relationship with your partner. I don't have to guess if you like me. Then suddenly what's happening is like the focus and the shift goes back to me. And I feel like you've held up a mirror and like you've shown me a lot of things about myself. Obviously that like I love, like I'm a lover, that I love to love you, like you're the most important thing in my life. Also, you know, I realize how much we both, because we come from being only children of divorced parents when we were 2 years old, with most of our families abroad, born and raised in New York City. We have so many of these like similarities, and I think that we both really wanted a companion growing up, and which people typically find in a sibling. And I'm not equating us to being like siblings, but I think that we really like love the same way. Like this, or even though, yes, I'm 6 years older than you, like whatever, like our origin story is so similar. And I think that that's why, even though we're very different from one another, like I think that if anything you've taught me is patience, and like how like nothing's like that serious. I think I just like grew up with a lot of chaos and like reacting with chaos, and you're like, I really like, now I'm like mentally like, it's not that serious, like we can relax. Like I try to like talk myself through it the way that you would handle a situation, so I really look up to you in that sense. But I think that our origin story is really similar, and I think that that's part of the reason why we like love each other in this like same love language and way. Like we really want to be together all the time, but not in this like codependent way. We obviously have our separate lives and we're independent, but I don't know. That was like a really long-winded answer to your question.
Can I answer it as well?
Yeah.
And then I want to ask you about what you just said. I think for me, and I talked about this a little bit on my solo episode as well, and I got some feedback about it. Like I think that and I've told you this a bunch, but the purpose that I think you gave me, not to say that I felt like I had no purpose on this earth before, but I think it became a lot more intentional. Like everything I do now is for you.
Love.
For us, for our future. But I think also it's like you're so smart at every level that you know, when you hear people say like you want to be with someone that pushes you, you push me every day in like the best way possible. And I think like being with a partner, and weirdly enough now, like I never thought I'd be in a position where I'm like giving advice to people on relationships, that you know, that came more from your brand than it ever did from mine. But I think if there's one thing for people that are listening, especially for young men, I think it's to allow themselves to be pushed by, if they're in a heterosexual relationship, by their female partners, and like allow yourself to feed off of their feminine energy, if that's the energy that they have. Because
sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you want to give an example of like in what sense?
I think the funny thing and this is why I think we clicked when you first came on my episode or on my podcast, is I read right through SFK, and not in the sense that I didn't legitimize SFK, because that's actually not true. I am so impressed by what you've built even before you walked into my studio for the first time. And that's why, like, I could totally see that by the time you sat down, there was SFK, the brand, and there was Serena. And I think that that's probably one of the reasons maybe you were drawn to me as well. I won't put words in your mouth, but because I could see the difference between the two. And I think, as you've spoken about, like, for some people, I think it was intimidating. But I think for me, it was like, it's so cool to see somebody so ambitious, but also that wants to be in their feminine energy, especially past the hours of 6 p.m. when the baby voice just gets turned on and I already see the switch. And I think, like,
we go from SFK to Sirenita.
That's literally, and what's funny is I don't think a lot of people know that, truthfully.
I don't think they know that we talk
in a baby voice
90% of the time. So I brought that up to my therapist because I was like, are we okay? Like, I don't know. Like, I was just like, is this normal? And I think we talked a lot about the fact that, like, I felt like because of some of the in the environment that I grew up in, like, I had to grow up pretty quickly, like, with being an only child, with parents in divorce, with, like, being really always kind of with one adult in the room. And other reasons, like, I just felt like I didn't have that, like, safety of, like, being this, like, little kid, like, sometimes. And I feel like with you, like, you make me feel so safe. And that's where that, like, energy comes out, you know? And it's like, I feel like you make me feel like a kid again. And it's not just because you were born in the year 2000.
Speaking of the year 2000, what reservations did you have about dating younger?
A huge indicator that your age was, like, not important or didn't even come up was the fact that it didn't come up until I think about, like, the third date, but fourth if you include the podcast. Like, I really didn't know your age, and I didn't really care to look it up, except I Googled you because I think we were at that period where we were talking every day, and it said, like, recent college grad. And I was like, recent college grad? Huh? And I was like, oh my God. And then I remember, like, then I saw you, and I definitely, like, had a wall up just because I was just fearful that, like, maybe this was a fetish, this was, like, a first time thing, that, like, I just didn't know you well enough. But you immediately squashed it, and you were like, it's not a thing. I've dated older. And I think the problem with just dating in general is that I don't know, I think that, like, I always associated maturity with age, and it's just so not true, because I dated a 30-something-year-old before you, and he could not have been less mature. I think, like, it's a variety of factors of what, you know, creates maturity and emotional maturity, which I think is, like, what you're so amazing at, in communication. I think it's just, like, you know, the fact that you were primarily raised by your mom, like, you're French, you're European, like, you value women. Like, there's just so many factors that go into it. And I think everyone told me you have to date older because you are so strong and so independent and so successful. So a younger guy would feel so intimidated by it. And I think that that's just wrong. I think that that's confidence. A confident man, like, never once have I ever felt like I had to, like, diminish my success to make you feel more comfortable.
How does a younger man approach a situation with perhaps a woman who's a couple years older?
I just think it's all about, like, not making age a thing.
How do you not make it a thing?
You just say, I'm 24 or so. Like, well, that's basically what you said. You're like...
But I'm curious from your POV, like, how it's then received. Because, like, I have friends that are my age, and I almost, like, weirdly enough, confidence coach them as well to go on dates and be open-minded to women that are older. But I'm curious for you, I guess you kind of answered it, but how does a young man approach it if he has never been with an older woman before?
I just think you say I'm X age and you move on from it. I mean, I don't know. It's like you don't make it a thing. And like, it's really like, I think that the problem with dating now, it's too like build a man energy. Like you're like, I want him to be 6'5", finance, blue eyes, Dartmouth, Duke. It's like this age. It's just like that's not how it works. Like you have to be open-minded. And like I think when I did my dating show, Let's Fucking Date in 2020, I dated 50 men on Instagram Live in a year. And like it was always a blind date. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to really stay open-minded. I felt like if you went in already knowing who they are, where they are from, what they look like, you're already going to have a preconceived notion in your head. I think that if I had known on our first date that you were 24, 23 at the time, maybe it would have gone differently. Maybe I would have had more of a wall up. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to get past the fact. And I'm not saying that you should be dishonest, but I think that like if you are really strong and mature and confident and conversational, like I don't even know if it's gonna, like the fact it just never came up for us. And I don't think it's because you were hiding it. It's just like we had so many other things to talk about. And I think like what I like about us, and in the beginning, I didn't want to talk about the age thing. I was very embarrassed by it. Not because I was, because I felt like we're obviously extremely good looking, great, nice, kind, successful, smart, sexy people. And I knew that people were going to fixate on the age thing with you. Yeah. They couldn't call you ugly, like, because you're not, babe. But it's like, I knew that that's what they were going to do. I knew people were going to like be like, oh my God, she's 6 years younger. Like he's just a baby. Like, bleh. Like, and so I was just very like, like when we were starting, we hard launched pretty quickly into the relationship because we started our relationship pretty quickly. So it's like, I was very anxious about that. But obviously we've been together for a year. I'm going to be with you forever. I just don't care anymore. Like, it's just not a thing.
How afraid of hurting the SFK brand were you when you hard launched?
So everyone said to me, like, how is your brand going to evolve once you get into a relationship?
Did they say this to you before even we met?
Yeah, way before you met. Like, what are you going to do? Like, and I was just like, I don't know. But I think that I got to a point in my life where I was 29. I'd been single for 5 years, and I was done. I was over dating. Like I literally was so over it, I wanted to move. And I was going to either move to LA or London. And then I went on the date with you and I said it to you on the date.
And my face went white, as she likes to tell everybody, even though I was just fine because seeing you.
You go, you're not moving to New York. You were like dead white as a sheet. Sorry. You're like this. You're not moving to LA. Like white as a sheet, like a ghost.
I almost died at the sushi restaurant.
You did. So I almost like choked on that crab head that you fed me.
That was actually the test. We got this, went to Sushi Asuda. Excellent place. And we did this omakase and they brought out this like head of a shrimp, which like, to be honest, not ever really what I anticipate when getting omakase. And I was like, if she better eat this head of the shrimp, even though it looked like inedible. And she did. My little adventurous.
What was I saying? Oh, so I was really over dating. And
what do you mean by over dating?
I just was so frustrated. I felt like maybe my guy wasn't in New York. Like, he was definitely not a Zero Bond. I did get a Zero Bond membership to thinking that I was going to find my husband there. And it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that, like, I met the love of my life, like, in a work environment. We're both so ambitious. Like, I'm very into astrology. I've like really read my chart. I really know it. And it really does say like the person that I'm supposed to be with, like we're supposed to build things together, not just like a family or a home, which we will do, but like actually like a business, which we are doing together. Like, so it really makes sense that like I couldn't be with someone who like, I don't really get what he does, like, and so I love that about us. In terms of the brand, like it just evolved. And like, I don't think people were like, I wasn't nervous about how the brand would evolve. Like, in fact, like, I actually think there was a moment where people were like, why are you fucking giving advice? Like, you're not even in a relationship. And I was like, damn, like, they're wrong because, like, I've experienced so much. I know what to not look out for. But definitely I started second guessing myself, being like, I'm keep saying, like, don't settle. He's out there. But, like, holy shit, like, what if he's not?
Did you ever think something was wrong with you?
Oh, my God, all the time. I think that that's, like, a human instinct is to, like, blame yourself.
But what did you think was wrong with yourself about not having found your partner at that point?
I think that I wasn't actually ready. Like, I think that there was a lot of things from my childhood that I didn't work through. I think that I felt deeply insecure and, like, afraid that I didn't deserve love or would find it, which is why I, like, put on this persona, because I could reject before I get rejected. Like, I would go on a date and be like, I have a fucking card game. Like, are you kidding? Like, I literally was just that with, like, my big ass eyelashes and, like, chopped blonde hair. But, like, I felt like the guys that I think you really do attract the energy that you put out. And, like, if you, like, I would say, like, I'm ready for a relationship, but, like, was I actually ready? No, because every time a guy wouldn't like me, I would continue to chase after him and think and gaslight myself into liking him. Like, you didn't like him. You just liked that he was unavailable. Why do you like that he's unavailable? Because you're not really ready for the real. And I think a lot of the way that I was able to work through that was therapy. And really getting to the crux of, like, why do I feel like I'm not worthy of love? And once I was able to understand that through really evaluating moments and events in my life, then, like, once you're able to see something and recognize it, that's when you're able to make the change. But I wasn't able to see it because I think, you hide a lot of the things that you go through because they're really painful to work through. And so if anyone is looking for a relationship, you have to really go back into your past and study the relationships in your life. And also get really granular about what you want. And, like, when I went to that list that I wrote in 2020 about all the characteristics I wanted my future person to have, like, it's you. I didn't put the age. It's literally you. I literally put, like, doesn't drink or do drugs. Like, you know, among many other things. Tall, hot.
Thanks, man.
Smart. It's close with his mom. I literally wrote that. So definitely make the list and go to therapy. And that for the brand, I felt like it's just, like, I think that's why people are like rooting for us, because, like, because they saw me, like, they watched me date live. Like, that was very voyeuristic show.
When it came to being public, what were the reservations that you had about hard launching? Because I remember the time it was interesting. We had gone to Miscou, which is where your grandmother lives, on this lovely little island in Canada, where we're going in a couple days. And we had soft launched there, using the proper terminology. And then I think there was, like, I could start to feel like you were like, okay, well, I want to be public about this. What was the biggest fear about being public when it came to being in a relationship?
I remember I was so anxious when I hard launched us. Like, I
remember exactly where we were too.
We were in the bed in the Hamptons, like,
yeah.
Freaking out. Great photos, though. I feel like I was just afraid that, like, once you let people in, they are able to judge you. But then what I realized was, like, with your help, who fucking cares what they think? And it's like, they didn't like me when I didn't have a boyfriend. They don't like me when I have a boyfriend. They just don't like me. They don't want me to be happy. They want to criticize me. Like, that's never going to change, because it's not about me. It's about them. Like, it's unreal. Like, it's actually insane how much people on the internet talk about me. Like, I'm obsessed that you're obsessed with me.
Also, to point out, though, that 90% of the people that reach out is love.
100%.
And you have an unbelievable community of people that, and I've noticed this being adjacently, and that love you, that support you, that respect you, which I think is one of the big things, at least professionally speaking and brand-wise, that I've learned from you. Is I don't think there's anyone better, I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, at telling a story, but B, I think at empowering people, specifically women, to, I think, be the best versions of themselves. And I hope that, and I know that I tell you this, but to recognize that.
I appreciate that. I think you've really helped me, like, you are so confident. Like, I feel like I'm not the queen of confidence. I feel like you're the king of confidence. You're so confident with who you are. And I think even circling back to your question about, like, if a younger guy wants to date an older woman, it's like, you got to be confident. You have to be confident within yourself. Like, that's what it was for me. You were just like, you were a man with a plan. You had plans, you had dates, but you just were so, like, comfortable with who you were, even though, like, you.
But I do want to interject for a sec, because I think confidence can look like different things. I think like, yes, I have confidence, but the way that doesn't mean I have the answers to everything. And that's why I try to always, I tell you this, and I tell people right now listening, like for me, confidence is not just, yes, I can have a plan and I can, feel positively about something, but there's also moments of uncertainty and stress. And I think that like both can coexist.
So I think actually confidence is like the ability to say like, I'm stressed or I don't know. I remember actually first when we started dating, you sent me the episode that I listened to, our episode. And then you sent me the promo and I wanted to give you notes on it. And I remember being like, well, I don't want to tell a man what to do because I know that's a no-no. And I was like, I also don't want to make him feel insecure. I don't want to come off too dominating. Like I remember being really, and I remember you were like, no, you're so good at this. Like I want to learn. Please tell me. And I was like, that's confidence. Confidence is being confident enough to say, I don't have the answers and I am uncertain, but we're going to figure it out.
That's one thing that I think too is when I knew you were the person.
A person?
The person.
Oh. Ooh, tell me.
Is I think you need to know that the person you're with will figure it out with you regardless of what happens. And I think we've done such a good job at continuing to build on that and evolving into that because, and I told you from when we first started dating, like, I'll always take care of you, but that's just words, right? And like, I really do every day hope that I make you feel that way. But also I think it's for people listening, if they have doubts on whether their person would go through a hardship with them, it's probably not your person. And I think that now I'm in a position to like confidently be able to say that. And we'll talk about the working together in a second, but I just want to make that super clear for people listening. Like if you don't feel like your person won't, that they would be upset with you, or that if you said something or did something, they wouldn't stick by you, it's probably not your person. I think we've both been in relationships like that in the past where that's been the case.
And I don't think that we edit ourselves around each other. But I think that like you've just helped me so much, and like the patience and the calmness and like it's not the end of the world has been really helpful for me. It's like we're here to find solutions. And I think that, as my mom said, her big note for this episode was talk about communication. I really think like I understand why people say like communication is the foundation of everything, and why my favorite quote, which is bad communication ruins a lot of good things, because ultimately every time we've had any kind of like tiff or argument, which has not been a lot in the year that we've dated, and it really came around like work stuff, because we also are like learning how to work with one another. But to finish that thought, it's like it always revolved around communication. It's always because like we might have not said something, or we might have assumed something, but we just didn't talk it out. And the way that I realized that we've always able to like work through any kind of problem is to literally talk it into the ground. Like we never hold back. Like we just bring it up immediately. Like I'll literally be like, this is bothering me. Like I might be overreacting, and then we just say it. And then it's just like this immediate, like we're not holding on to any resentment at all.
We watched couples therapy recently with Olga Gralnik, who's brilliant. And I recommend that every couple watches it, because I think ultimately you see that what you just said about the communication, it sounds corny, I guess, sometimes, but it's so true.
Everything that sounds corny is true, by the way.
But I recommend every single person watch it, because you see straight couples, gay couples, Hasidic Jewish couples, interracial couples. You see every type of couple. And what's first and foremost, fascinating to see the problems that every type of person, especially living in New York City where we live, there's so many different types of couples and different types of problems that come with each couple. But it all boils down to like, did you speak through it enough, I think, is ultimately the question. And like something that our relationship has taught me is, I feel like I was always good at communicating. But some of the times where if any friction has come up, is because there was just not enough of the communication. And every single time we've over communicated, there are no issues.
Right. I think something that we've been like learning, you know, as we're like working together on this project, which we can't really talk about yet, but you'll see it soon, is like this whole idea too of like feminine energy versus masculine energy. Because like, as we said, like when I'm with Felix, I really am in my feminine. Like that's why we call each other bear. Like you call me a little teddy bear because I am so cuddly and I feel safe enough to be in my feminine, to have a baby voice, to like be or sit and eat that, right? But when I'm at work, like, I ain't fucking around. Like, I'm not sitting and eat that. I'm Serena fucking Kerrigan. And so when we're working together, I'm no longer this in my feminine energy. So then it's like, who am I and how do I communicate? And like, if I'm like, Felix, where is this? Like, it's taking so long. Like, I think that can be a little confusing, right?
I love working with you. And let me tell you why I personally love working with you. It's because, one, I respect you. And I think, like, whether you're working with your romantic partner or anybody, I hope that your business partner you respect. The second is that I get to learn about you in a different way. And I know that when we first started working on this project that we can't talk about, but one day everybody here will be well aware. You know, there are some people that say do not work with your partner. There are others that say work with your partner. And I think we've had conversations with people that stand on both sides of the aisle. And one of those couples that says do work with your partner is a couple that have been together for over 30 years that are like literally like my family. And the advice that resonated the most is, and they have 3 kids, is you always need to have a project with your partner. And up for interpretation on how everybody wants to go about having that project with their partner. For some people, it's having kids and a family. For others, it can be business. We'll get to the kids and family one day, but for right now, it's business. And I think what's so amazing about seeing you in a working environment is that I just get to learn more about you. And
like what? Be specific.
So people might feel I'm biased. I think you're the greatest storyteller that I know. And something that I recognize that I'm not good at all is storytelling.
I disagree. You have a podcast. You can tell
sure,
a story.
but I'm not a storyteller, and I'm not a storyteller like you. And I'm very happy to lean into that. Like that's why we're working together. And so you realize what I've learned through working with you is that every brand ever in the history of brands has a story. And every product, every service, every team, every business is a story. And so you need a storyteller. And you need then somebody to also execute on the story. Enter me. But
like, I don't like executing, as you know. I'm such a good delegator. I'm like, we need to do this, this, and that. But
she likes to use delegator interchangeably with dictator, but
delegator, dictator, it's kind of one and the same.
Tomato,
Dictadora.
Tomato.
Dictadora. But yeah, I'm a really great delegator. And you're a great executor. This is a great relationship. Working relationship.
For people out there, and it was funny when I talked about it on my solo pod, I had a lot of people, actually a couple of women that reached out to me about their experiences working or about to be working with their partners. And it was ultimately a lot of excitement. For you, what have you learned from working together?
Felix and I created this product. It took a year to create. And we were building something from scratch, and we were really passionate about it. But it was our first time really doing this and working with the manufacturer that we were working with. And I think that because we are in a relationship and we're like in bed talking about the product because we're busy doing our own things during the day, the communication like was kind of off. Like we didn't have a designated time where we had like a Zoom meeting or like we were sitting together and like we were working. It was kind of like dispersed out throughout the day. And I think like it was just like a really great learning experience. And ultimately like we weren't 100% happy about the product. And by the time that we realized this, it was too late. And and I was pretty upset about it because I was like, you know, a major thing in business is you have to die on the fucking hill for your product. Like literally, like you have to be able to sell it like you would die for it. And that's what I've done with my card games. And by the way, I've created a lot of things where I don't die for, and guess what they don't sell? Like my wrapping paper, still have many to sell, like 180 rolls. Why don't I die for it? Because I don't wrap my fucking gifts, okay? Anyway, so we didn't die on the hill for the product, and I think that we were both upset. And I think your initial reaction, because you were more on the execution side of things, was to pay me back for the investment that I put in. And then we both had a really long discussion, and this was like my favorite thing that we agreed upon. And I think we set such a good precedent for our relationship where I ultimately paid you back. So both of our investment was still in this project, no matter what happened, because we can't set the precedent that like, if one of us makes a mistake, then we take all the blame. And it wasn't even your mistake, really. You were just being, a good person. But like, it's like we either win together or we lose together, but regardless, it's together. And I thought it was such a good precedent because it's like, what if I fumble in the next thing that we do? What if I send our kids to the wrong school?
Say public school and we have a problem.
Private. Like, I went to private school and Felix went to public school, so it's always been a debate for us. But like, I'm pro-public. But like, what if I fumble, I make a mistake? Like, suddenly am I going to be in trouble and I'm going to have to like pay for it? No. So I think that was like a really good lesson that we learned. And another one was like realizing that like, just because we're in a relationship and yay, like we get to be co-founders and sit next to each other in bed and talk about things, the actual decision-making moments need to be like during the day in a work environment, scheduled the way that we would schedule with any of our other colleagues.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I'm so excited to take a second to talk about this right now. For myself, someone who's always on the go and fast moving and, deals with little and bigger stresses every day and really just trying to create a life for myself as a young entrepreneur and hustler and whatever you want to call it. It's really nice to be able to take some time to think about my own mental health journey and think really about what therapy has done for me over the last couple of years. I've been in therapy on and off, sometimes for longer periods than others. I think that what makes therapy so beautiful is that it allows you to really take some time and completely detach from the world. Everybody needs that. We're in this instant gratification, doom scrolling generation where when you're still, you just pick up your phone and go on Instagram and see what other people are doing and probably subconsciously compare yourself. And so if you're someone who wants to get back into therapy or wants to get into therapy for the first time, go to betterhelp.com/unlikeme and you'll get 10% off of your first month. Again, that's BETTER help.com/unlikeme for 10% off your first month. And I just really challenge you to prioritize yourself before you prioritize anybody else. Now let's get back into it.
If I can make a recommendation to couples that work together, and especially if there's, which I think is totally valid, to have reservations when you first start work. And I think that's the situation we found ourselves in as well. It's like, of course, like any new partnership or business partnership, you're going to potentially, you want to ease into it. I think leaning on people around you that you trust their opinion, you value them, finding the best people, whether it's on the creative branding side, whether it's manufacturers, whether it's just people that you feel comfortable to get their opinion on, I think has been something that we learned through this process, because now A, it makes our team stronger, and B, I think it gives you a complete third party that is unbiased to the actual like relationship of ours.
So to be more specific, because people want to know, basically like when I'm with Felix, it's hard to turn off, am I work Serena or am I Serenita, your girlfriend? And so it's like very difficult for me to turn off this on switch or off switch show. I think that what I suggested, and which we ultimately went through, is what we hired a creative consultant or a consultant in general for this other business that we're starting, because having a third person there makes us be like, okay, we're in business mode. We're not going to be like talking in our baby voice, being all cute and lovey, like during a business meeting. And so that was really helpful, having a good third in there. And ever since then, it's flowed so well because it's very clear that we're showing up as business partners and not as like boyfriend and girlfriend. And I think that's a boundaries thing, right?
Do you still have any fears about working together?
No, because I think it's like really clear what I mean, do I have fears of working together? No. I just think like there's obviously going to be moments where we're going to disagree. And I think like I'm happy that we've made mistakes already and we've like worked through things and realized like communication is so important. But ultimately, like with this next project, it's like I'm here to like help tell the story, but I really ultimately like think it's your baby. It's our baby.
Going to your ability to tell a story, because you are known for that. And your branded content, in my opinion, is on another level than a lot of creators in the industry. How do you approach, and it's funny, you know, I've heard you speak about it a lot where, and I've seen you sometimes be harsh on yourself because you have the highest expectations about every single piece of content that you put out because this is just how you're wired. What's your approach when it comes to branded content and telling a story when a brand approaches you?
I mean, I just think like your reputation's everything ultimately. And you really have like one shot. If someone's paying you to make a piece of content, like that's a job and you have to give it 110%. And it's interesting to me that like people don't take it that serious. It's obvious when people care about their content when they don't. And I find that strange because it's like this brand is paying you money to like tell a story about their product and to I don't know, like I love it. I love the challenge of it. But I think ultimately it's not about the product. It's about like what is the emotion you want to convey. I remember I did a video for EOS body lotion and it was called like how to make your boyfriend fall in love with you. And like it wasn't the lotion that made you fall in love with me at all. I just happened to bring it on like an away trip that we were both on. But in that story, I was actually saying all the reasons why you don't make someone fall in love with you, but all the things and little cute things that I did. Like I wore lime green our first date, which like I never had ever worn lime green on a date before. It's always been black. But I think that I was like feeling spontaneous and confident. And again, like it's not about these like little stupid details. It's about empowerment within yourself. And I think that after you watch that video, you associate EOS body lotion with empowerment, with like actually having like the agency to show up on a date. And like, why wouldn't he fall in love with me? That's the feeling. And then when you have the feeling and the lotion and the product is great, that's what storytelling is. It's about emotion. It's about what do you want to tell, like what is the beginning, middle, end, but what is the end feeling that you want that audience member to have? And then you find a way to integrate the product within it.
What do you think separates your content versus a lot of content creators is branded content?
I just always wanted to make movies. So I always just like treat my pieces of branded content like short films, like ads, like Super Bowl ads, like this might be the last time you can get paid for an ad. Like this might be an ad that a major producer in Hollywood sees, or like some brand that has enough money to get a Super Bowl commercial and would hire to direct you. Like it's like the audition for the next role is how I treat it. I take it very seriously. Also, it's literally how I make my money. So it's like there's been moments where I might be, I don't like the word lazy, but maybe I'm like, okay, I can get away with not putting like, you know, the SFK 210% production value, because sometimes it's like, it's a lot of work and and I spend a lot of money on these projects. And sometimes I'm like, oh, like maybe I could just get away with doing it like at a lesser scale. But what I realize ultimately is like, that's what makes my shit mine. And that is like what I'm known for. And that's what people love to watch. And so it's important for me to like always show up and be like the best at what I do. And that's what my dad always taught me. He's like, I don't give a shit what you do. All I want you to do is find something you love and be the fucking best at it. And I'm the best at making ads. And one day I'm going to direct like real advertisements for TV and the Super Bowl.
What brand do you want to advertise? What brand do you want to make a Super Bowl advertisement for?
Amazon.
Next year?
Next year. Come on, Jeff.
Jeff.
Like, yeah, Amazon. Not that they need an ad, but.
Why Amazon?
I mean, I've actually made an ad for Amazon before. For their, it was like, what is it? The Alexa? Yeah. It was so good. I did in my
haven't
apartment.
seen this one.
Oh my God, it's so good. We'll put it up. I made it in 2020. I was like going on a date with my Alexa, but like you didn't know that. I was like getting ready for a date, and it was like me on the Alexa, like a photo of me. Iconic. I want to work with the biggest brands in the world, and I already do. But it's just like, to me, it's like them seeing my value is so validating, and it makes me feel like, okay, like I'm a real fucking storyteller. Like I'm making ads for like really legit brands. Like that's so sick. Like that's so cool. That's so much power. Like a huge global brand is trusting you. Like I've worked with Plan B One Step 3 times, and they keep coming back. And it's like, this is a huge pharmaceutical company that's like literally investing and betting on me and my storytelling skills.
Speaking of your storytelling skills, the last time you were on this podcast, you said that you're going to win an Oscar one day.
I am.
What are you going to win an Oscar for?
A porno.
Really? Am I featured?
Duh.
Do I get supporting actor or am I main?
You're an extra, babe.
That's actually insanity. Pause. Time out. Who the fuck is the main actor on this?
Me.
Yeah, but
CGI double.
why am I an extra? There's this. Who's the? Hold on. The math is just not mathing right now. Who is the supporting actor in your porno?
You're my co-star.
That's much better. Oh, we're about to have a fight live on the podcast.
I'm writing a movie, and I'm definitely closer to finishing it than I was the last time I was sitting here.
Much closer. My inside sources tell me.
Could it be even closer?
This felt awfully sexual.
Oh, no, I didn't mean like that. We're not talking about the porno anymore, babe.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I also feel like, how else have I changed since the last time I've been here? I feel like I was so obsessed with followers and building and growing and taking over and blowing up. Like, okay, after this, I'm going to blow up. I'm going to blow up. And I'm like, what if my lesson in life is like, validate yourself? Like, be grateful and nurture the community you already do have. Why are you smiling? Because you told me to do that?
Told you one time or tell you frequently?
But I think that I've absorbed it.
You have.
I feel like it's just like, what's the point? Like we're gonna die, you know? Like we are. Like tomorrow isn't promised, and I just feel like I'm obsessing about something that like doesn't really matter.
I think if there's something else that I've learned from you as an entrepreneur, is that you have a desire to adapt. And I've noticed this from a lot of other smart people that I've had on the show that are entrepreneurial or entrepreneurs, that they absorb, they take a second, and then they do.
I feel like back to the whole relationships thing, like even watching couples therapy, it's like I've noticed that a lot of the couples, like when they would do something, it's like they really lacked self-awareness. Like they would do something, they're like, I don't know why I do that. And I think that because we are constantly talking and communicating, like I'm like, I don't know, I just feel like I really have like such a better understanding of myself and like why I tick the way I do. And like why, like, you know, like when I get upset or triggered or like something happens, like I'm like, oh, like this is the root of it. And like you really are patient and help me work through that.
What do you want people to know about you?
That I just like want to be loved and I want to love.
Do you think that in the past you weren't able to communicate that publicly to your audience?
I just think it's like a very vulnerable thing. Like it feels very scary. And that's why I put in such a like front of the SFK thing. And like the whole thing about that persona, it's like it almost doesn't even feel like me anymore. Like it is me, but it's like when I go online, like I don't know how to be that character as much anymore. I don't know.
Does it scare you that you feel like you can't be SFK as much anymore?
Yeah, because
Why?
then it's like, who am I? And like, will that work? And it just feels like my shell is not on, like my like armor. What are you hopeful for this next year of our relationship?
I just love doing everything with you in the sense of like
we continue, I think it's actually quite fun to have moments like this, because even in the exercise of preparing for this, thinking back to our first episode, thinking back on the last year of our relationship, assessing where we were 13 months ago as opposed to now, it's like, it zoomed by, but also it shows you that we can both, and we are both growing, and we're growing together. So I think what excites me the most is really being able to continue to grow together and understand and do everything together. And I think for me, it's like just continuing to, we're all just trying to figure it out, right? At the end of the day. And like, whether you're me or you're you, we're going to figure it out together. So I think that's what excites me, is just like being excited about being excited. Is that crazy?
And making money.
And making money, of course. And like, yes, it's very important to me. But I think also, as important as it is to me, all the rich people that we know, they all say that it's not the money aspect that makes them happy. Mm-hmm. So I try to remind myself of that in days when I feel poor.
No, it's so true. I think like I'm so excited to do everything with you. Like I love you so much, and I feel just we have so much fun together. We're always laughing, and I'm so grateful beyond. Like, and I'm so fucking glad I didn't settle. I literally was so right. Like, you're literally like my person. It's crazy.
It's true. The next time you come on,
2025.
Good thing you have access. And now, thank God this time I don't have to hit up your PR people to get you on my show. Manifest for me. Where is the Serena Kerrigan brand in a year from now? Let's just do it for you. I think we know where we want to be.
This time next year, I would like to have purchased an apartment. I would like to have my movie sold. I'd like to have the Super Bowl commercial aired. And I would like for you to be happy. And that we have launched our business, which we will. And I just want us to be happy and healthy.
Thanks for coming on my show for a second time.
Wait, what about you?
Oh, me?
And I want a Birkin.
You literally have a Birkin, even if it wasn't like...
That's fine. I want a Kelly.
Fuck. I don't know about that.
No, it's okay, baby. I want to... let's save. Save.
Thanks. A year from now, to manifest, I want to have our business launched. And I want people to really be excited about that business.
And they will be.
And they will be.
Because the story is
excellent. I want to have my personal brand be bigger and focus. I think I've spent a lot of years focusing on not myself professionally. And so I want to lean into that more.
We're getting him on TikTok, baby. We're going to be doing little dances and shit.
Dances and the fucking lip syncs. Oof. Let's keep it with that.
Yeah.
Let's keep it with that.
We have a lot to do.
Thanks for coming on my show today.
I love you so much.
I love you.
I'm so proud of you.